It says we're live. Oh my gosh, it's been 2 months since we've been live. And I know my voice isn't totally up to snuff, but I can break middle C now. So, hey everybody, welcome back to ADRAMADA. We kind of went on unofficial hiatus for about a month, and that was because my summer schedule was explosive. I did not expect the load of work that I wound up with. So I kept pushing shows back and pushing shows back, and finally said, let's just hold off on the shows. About the time I was ready to do shows, came down with this 4-day simple flu. A little rough throat, all that usual stuff, sniffles. And then it gets all done, and I got a day of my voice is starting to sound like Popeye. And the next day, my voice sounded like this. Solid week, could not make a sound, didn't hurt, just, and after 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, I make my living communicating, speaking mostly, writing if I have to. So I got scared, and I called a doc, and 2.5 weeks was the closest I could get in to see anybody. So I just did old wives' tale and a gargle warm salt water and all that happy stuff. And after about a week of totally gone voice, I tell you what, I got to work, right? I got to live. And as some of you know, I have a couple side gigs, and one of them is DJ. I DJ'd with zero voice, which meant there was no announcements, there was no call outs to the dance floor or anything like that. I would grab somebody who looked kind of fun, looked like they're the life of the party, and say, come here, and communicate some sign language to them. You're going to do the call out here. And it was a great event. It worked out really well. But it took a good solid 3 weeks to get my voice back to this level. And I went to the doc, and they rammed things so far down my throat that they came out toenails. And they put me on tiny little pills. And they said I'm better. I'm getting better. I don't believe that the pills have anything to do with this. I think this would have been my normal recovery rate, but I got to follow up with them in, I don't know, a few weeks, something like that, and we'll see. What else is going on? That's, as long as we're talking health, because we wide range on this thing, I made this decision a month or two ago that I want to live. The only doctor I ever go to is an occasional ER when I injure myself doing something stupid on one of the side gigs, or for an aviation physical, for my first class medical, which I have to do every 6 months. And that's getting tougher and tougher. So I don't go to regular docs. I don't take medicine. If I have a screaming headache, I suffer. I won't take aspirin. And I thought, that's pretty darn dumb. I says, I am just slowly killing myself. I don't seem like it. But every time I go to my aviation physical, my BP is a little higher and a little higher. And I thought, one of these days, I'm just going to have a brain bleed. So I want to live. My kid has a long-term girlfriend, and I'm sure they're talking the big M word. And next thing you know, it'll be grand words. And I want to see the grand results. So I thought, well, I better find a doc and start working on all these things that have accumulated over however many years it takes to get this far. And I love good docs because they're not judgmental. I know in the back of this guy's mind, man, nobody could abuse themselves and ignore it for so long, so badly. But, oh no, here, take this and do this, and this isn't as bad as you think, and this is much worse than you think. But he thinks I'm going to live, so it's a good sign. Housekeeping. It never ends, this summer stuff that I do with Big Pharma. I do at least 3 gigs a week, and there was one yesterday, so that was part of the reason why we didn't do this yesterday. One of our guests also had a commitment for yesterday, so that's why we're here. Next week, I had 2 gigs, Wednesday and Thursday, so Thursday wasn't going to happen no matter what. So I'm planning to do it Friday. And then I just got a call about 2 hours before show. for a change or an update or something. Anyways, I got 3 gigs scheduled next week over 2 days, so I got to get that unknotted. But bottom line is, I'm going to do a show next week because we have a ton of catching up to do after 2 months of radio silence. So I'm going to do a show next Friday, and this will be a test to see if I can talk for 40 minutes. And I'm not going to. We have 2 marvelous guests in here. They're going to do all the talking. One of them with, he's going to tell you it's an English accent, but I'm pretty sure he's a Kiwi. Hey, so where are we at here? It's 5 minutes after. Not going to do the usual litany. I got no slides. We're not going to talk about technology news. We're going to dive straight on into program. So let me change my screen over here so I can see what program looks like. Beg your pardon. Still doing a little bit of this, but the Pillman says that'll get less and less. All right. Well, if you looked at the banner, if you saw the announcements on social, this is a topic that I posed a while back. I contacted a contact that I have over at the nice folks at Rocky Linux with a technical question about a new product that they were introducing. And my question got misinterpreted. I talked to the guys here before the show started, so they've already heard this part, but I think it's funny. I think it's interesting. So instead of responding with a technical answer, they interpreted my question as, can I get somebody on the show to talk about these things? And I didn't bother to correct them when they asked, or when they offered that. So here we are, because we've talked to the Rocky folks many times before, and we're going to do it again. So I'm going to introduce you now to Jeremy Allison and Jason Rodriguez, who are in the other half of Rocky. They're on the CIQ side. Am I wrong? Jeremy, Phil?
Yeah,
straighten me out.
I don't want Rocky people watching to get the wrong idea. CIQ is a commercial company that provides support for Rocky, but Rocky is not CIQ's product.
Right, very clear
Rocky,
on that
Rocky Linux is we're not the Rocky Linux guys. We're CIQ. We love Rocky Linux. We support Rocky Linux, but Rocky Linux is created and maintained by the users of Rocky Linux and the people in the project. As I like to say, Rocky Linux is enterprise Linux by enterprise Linux users. So,
fair enough. So
I just want to make that really clear. That
I apologize for confusing him and muddying the waters.
Well, I don't want those guys to say, hey, it's not Rocky.
I know that they would not say that.
Anyway.
Well, I shouldn't even. I don't know how close you guys. I know you work closely on the technical component together.
Yeah.
I saw a new hire announcement yesterday or today. Raul, is that somebody you guys? Or nope. Okay, I went down the wrong road.
Haven't met him yet, or
okay.
If there is.
I saw the announcement on X today.
Okay,
we'll get that filled up. Well, Jeremy and Jason, why don't you guys introduce yourselves? Tell us a little bit about what you are, what you guys are doing, and what we're talking about today.
So I'm Jason Rodriguez. I've been with CIQ for a little over 3 years. I'm one of the co-leads of the security team along with Solar Designer. But pretty much my job is to make sure the projects are racked and stacked and executed. And it's a pleasure when you have people like Jeremy on my team and Solar and some of the other guys. And but yeah, so so I've been here about 3 years. I have FIPS under my view, and I'm leading the formation of the RLCH Hardened, the product we're going to talk about today.
Okay.
And some other internal projects. But yeah.
Okay, thanks. Jeremy?
So I'm Jeremy Allison. I've been with CIQ for a couple of years. My official title is Distinguished Engineer, but as I was saying earlier, what I really am is a code janitor. So I absolutely depend on Jason to tell me what to do. Because, you know, I can do the code, but there's a lot of other stuff, procedural stuff around code, around FIPS and some of the hardened stuff that I am absolutely appalling at. So I depend on this man every day.
Okay. Well, so there's the two things that brought us together here. We're going to talk about an element or a thing called FIPS, Federal. Fill me in. Okay, it's a set of, yeah, right.
No, I'm going to let Jason do it because he's the expert.
Yeah, I think it's federal information processing spec.
Yeah, that's it. So the feds, and I presume this is through NIST, have come up with a set of standards and specs that said, we're not putting this on our machines unless it meets these standards and these specs. Is that accurate?
Oh yeah. I'm blessed to be able that CIQ will send me to some of the cryptography conferences, and we had the Canadian crypto chief speaking, and she said if it's not validated, it might as well be clear text.
Okay.
And it blew me away. And I was like, there's lots of cryptography out there that's viable and good, and it hasn't been validated. And I don't think it's clear, same as clear text. But
okay, I want to get way ahead of myself just because I have this question that came up a while back. I didn't make notes, and I've got the memory of a gnat. A while back, I was talking with Greg, CEO of with all of his million titles, and one of the things that he was really proud of as they spun out. What's the open source group they created with Oracle?
Oh, OpenELA.
ELA. So one of the things that we talked about is how important it was that we could backtrack binaries and ensure their integrity. Does that fall under FIPS, or is that where are we at?
For certain components of the system, the components that are FIPS certified, yes. On startup, they do something called a POST, power on self-test, and this is software power on self-test. And what they do is there is code inside the libraries and the kernel and other places that actually reads the binary, hashes it using SHA-512 HMAC, and checks that the code, the binary that you're running, matches a file on disk that contains that information. If it doesn't, the library won't even load.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so there are 5 components that are actually important. There's the kernel, obviously. There's GNU TLS, which is a TLS library. There's NSS, which was Firefox and Mozilla's crypto. There's libgcrypt, and of course there's OpenSSL. OpenSSH, interestingly enough, is not one of the listed FIPS modules, but those other modules, they basically every time those things start up in a FIPS, when a system is in FIPS mode, they must check. They go through, they check the binaries are working. They actually then exercise every single crypto algorithm in every single mode.
Wow.
To make sure that they match known. Basically, you give it a known plain text value, you get a known crypto value, and then they do the reverse. And then, of course, there are tests that every time a key is generated, that key has to match certain standards. So it's actually a boatload of work. Coding wise, yeah.
And if you have to do any kind of update on any of those systems, it seems gargantuan.
You can't.
Okay.
on a FIPS certified system, you ain't changing nothing. At least in those modules.
Got it. So as coders and developers and managers of these things, it's done, the product is released, somebody buys it, somebody installs it, you guys support, you may help with installation and things like that. And then as supporters, are these kinds of issues that you get support calls on, or are you more supporting general aspects? I see Jason nodding. vigorously. What do you got, Jason?
Yeah, we support our customers with that. You know, one of the big things that I hold near and dear is the CBOM, right? The cryptographic bill of materials. So you ask them what algorithms are you using that your system uses, and you know they can provide that, and then you can rack and stack it against our security policies that go along with our modules to see if the algorithms they're actually using are validated. Because some of them have, you know, like triple devs, for instance. No, not anymore. Back,
Yeah,
you know, back in the
my
90s,
heart stopped for a second.
right? But no, you can't be using that anymore. So just make sure you're using the right key strengths and the right algorithms. And that's important. And we work with our customers hand in hand to make sure that they're going to meet the FIPS specification.
Okay, when you say the right algorithms, my mind jumps to SSH, where we watch an SSH negotiation. I support these algorithms. I support these. Okay, let's pick the top one. Is it similar? Is there a list of supported and approved algorithm? Okay, and so whenever we're going to do a process, the client and server side, or the two negotiating elements, find the best that they support.
Well, that's usually with TLS, transport layer security. So they'll pick the best algorithm, but the list of algorithms that FIPS supports is actually quite restricted.
Okay.
So there are only certain key sizes. There are restrictions on the key properties. There's restrictions on all sorts of algorithms. There's just a much more restricted list that you can actually use. And you know, if you try and use one of the others, the library will go into an unapproved mode, where basically you did something that is non-FIPS. You're now no longer in FIPS compliant mode. And there are options. You know, some libraries will basically just crash if you try and do that. Say, no, you're not doing that. Others will basically set a flag saying, you went out of FIPS mode. You're now no longer in a safe mode. The interesting thing is, one of the things that we're really proud of is that the FIPS specification keeps getting tighter and tighter and harder and harder. And the previous specification was called FIPS 140-2. And that has now been tightened to FIPS 140-3. So it's got a lot more restrictions in it. And what we've been able to do is to provide FIPS 140-3 certification for Rocky 8, which is something that other enterprise Linux vendors, they've done it for version 9, enterprise Linux version 9, but not for 8. We managed to, and this is a collaborative process. I don't want to say that we've done all this code ourselves, because we haven't. This is basically, we scrounged patches from everywhere, you know, other people's Linuxes. We're not proud. But the other thing that we have done is we have published all our source code.
Right.
It is available. If you go to GitHub and you search for CIQ FIPS, you can get buildable versions of every single one of our FIPS modules. All of the code is open source. All of it is under the original licenses. You know, we've given credit when we took something from SUSE or we took something from Red Hat. All of those things have got credit in there. So, you know, nobody can say, hey, you guys are stealing my code. Well, I mean, it's open source. So we are stealing that code, but at least we're getting credit for it. And we have done some original work ourselves. So, for instance, libgcrypt, when we got it, was not FIPS 140-3 certifiable. We've actually managed to fix that, and we've published those changes. I'm looking at upstream for that, but that upstream has decided to go a different direction. So, you know how these things go. If you've ever tried to push code upstream, it's sometimes not as easy as you might think. But all of the code is out, so everything we've done is visible to the public. And in fact, any competitors who want to download these versions, they can make an Enterprise Linux 8 by using those modules.
Does this kind of force you into an ALMA model, where we would say Red Hat Plus? Yeah, we used to be bug for bug and bit for bit, but now we're adding some old stuff back in and we're modifying some of the new stuff. Does that kind of fit your?
Well, the FIPS. So libgcrypt is the one I'm very familiar with. There, the libgcrypt that was shipped on Red Hat is not FIPS 140-3 certifiable as of this year. So I'm sure when Red Hat goes to recertify, and they're going to have to make some changes, they're very free to take ours, of course. But yes, it does mean that you have to make some changes. One of the other things we did was in OpenSSL. Did we do it in? I think it was just OpenSSL. We added the EDE 25519 and EDE 448. They're completely random number name strings, but they're basically they're elliptic curve algorithms that are FIPS certified, that the standard code base does not have in a FIPS certifiable mode. So in other words, there were no parent self tests, there were no key generation tests. So we've added all those. And again, anyone is free to take those changes we've made and incorporate them into their OpenSSL.
That's awesome. That's wonderful.
Yeah, so we're CIQ, you know, we are supporting our customers. We heard their call for 140-3 cert validation for EL8, and it is a fork, right? You can't validate for FIPS without it being a fork, because the spec is constantly changing all the time.
Right.
But Rocky, bug for bug, CIQ can support its customers with those forks. And we are constantly working with the lab to be able to keep those modules up to spec.
Nice. Okay, you said something a second ago, and I think I misinterpreted in my head. You've gone back and, let me see if I can get this right. Did you backport to 8 because 9 was the release candidate, or are you only up to, that's a terrible way to phrase that, but are you 8 now and you will be 9 or 10? Of course, 10's out now.
So, sorry, Jason.
So the modules are, the set of modules for EL8 and the set of modules for EL9, there is overlap, like libgcrypt. We did backport into EL8, but let's say OpenSSL, right? EL8, it requires OpenSSL 111K, and EL9 requires OpenSSL 3.x. And you cannot install 3.x on EL8. The system will not take it.
Got it.
The thing about 11K is that it's end of life, right? OpenSSL is no longer supporting it unless you, I think there's a special subscription you can pay that they will give you updates. But so we've taken that on ourselves and said our customers require EL8. So they also require FIPS. And one of the things that we did was we took a look at TLS 1.3. TLS 1.3 is supported in 1K, but it's not FIPS validatable.
Okay.
So we had to go add the FIPS features for TLS 1.3. Think about it.
Yeah.
And you can't use TLS 1.3. We were not going to do that for our customers. Do that to our customers.
Sure.
Yeah. So we added those features. We tested it. It's lab validated. So they have that support throughout the life of 8.10.
So when you get, go ahead, Jeremy.
No, I was just going to say, so, I mean, where you can backport, we do. When you can't, we bring the level of quality of the code up to 140-3, given the older code base. And that's what makes it difficult. That's what makes things really hard to do sometimes.
Right. So the FIPS blessing, the certification, is that kind of real-time lab third-party tested, or do you just provide the documentation to see if we complied? And without going through the 6-month process, can you give us a short version here, how you get blessed?
Well, after they've pulled all your fingernails out. Sorry. It's not easy.
Yeah, it really depends on the lab you contract with. Some labs will have you do a lot of the work. I have talked to someone who had like 30 different platforms they were certifying for FIPS. And they said, we can't afford different platforms to be certified. So they do a lot of the work themselves.
That makes sense.
So Jeremy and I are very familiar with the work that needs to be done, all the documents that need to be filled out, all the code that needs to be written to be able to validate these modules. But we were very blessed to be able to subscribe with or sign up with a lab, partner with a lab that they're experts in open source validations, and it's a breeze, man. It's
That's a different definition of the word breeze that I've ever known.
So you're working on 10, I'm presuming.
9
Yeah, maybe that's corporate secrets. Let me ask this question.
Things are ongoing. But
okay. Jeremy, you said, I think you guys both said that FIPS is becoming more restrictive. And what I saw in my mind is, well, there used to be this many algorithms that we could work with, and now there's this list of algorithms. And I wondered if that's, A, is that the case? And B, is that a harbinger that says eventually FIPS will get so narrow that says, this is the one you're going to use?
I mean, Jason's more of the crypto expert than I am.
So with the post-quantum crypto mandates that are coming out, and the 2030 deadline for the government is set, right? Things like RSA and DSA are just going to go away by 2030. So you think?
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But post-quantum crypto, they're saying everyone should be migrating right now. You should have hybrids in place and start migrating, and that's really hard, for not everything supports that, but they want you to put your plans in place, and when 2030 comes around and the drop dead date of 2035, we'll see how the government moves, but they're really
not far off.
It's not. It's going to be here before we know it.
So the step towards the post-quantum world is to add key exchange algorithms that are resistant to quantum cryptography, and then mix those with the existing standard ones.
Wow.
So we're actually looking into that right now. The great thing is there's some open source libraries that we can use, which Upstream is also looking at as well. But the problem is, putting that into existing code and making sure it all works, that's a non-trivial task. And we're still scratching our heads on how that's.
Oh, sure, it's huge. I saw 2 years ago, IBM released an SDK for their quantum box, and it's so different, and integrating traditional coding techniques and
no, that's if you were coding on a quantum computer. What I'm talking about is making the standard code that we run on regular Linux boxes, regular Rocky, making that resistant to IBM or Google.
Oh my gosh.
The fear is that once the quantum computer is materialized, right, that it will be able to break any algorithm that's not quantum crypto safe in matter of minutes or
exactly, seconds.
RSA.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense, and it's I find that incredible that based on everything that we've heard about quantum computing and quantum computers, that we could even go down an avenue with traditional code and make it quantum resistant. So that's impressive.
Well, I mean, that's based on the algorithms that we know about for quantum computers. If I were the Bitcoin guys, I'd be sweating right now. Which is why I don't buy any Bitcoin.
I have pre-quoted you on that 1,000 times. Well, let me share something here. So I'm looking at our participants, and Brian Dawson has just popped in. It's not a frequent name that we see on my show. So Brian Dawson says, "Hey all, excited to hear about Hardened Rocky. So, RCH, what can you tell us? Give us an overview to start us out."
So Hardened Rocky, we gotta say, is based on code created by the Rocky security SIG.
Okay.
So, you know, yeah, credit where credit
is exactly right.
This
That's a great group over there.
This is Rocky. This is a productized version of code that is already shipping on Rocky's security SIG. So again, this is open source code. You can download this stuff. You can do this yourself. What you get from RLCH is an integrated version where all this stuff is packaged for you. And I'm going to let Jason take it away because he's the manager.
Yeah. So we're testing the products. We're triaging bugs. We're fixing them, and we're pushing back upstream immediately. And it comes back down to our systems, and we're packaging that up. And we have, we're on a rotation of we're building new images and pushing them out all the time. So the packages, though, we have some that we've replaced. Like we have our own version of glibc with updates. We have our own OpenSSHD, which has certain libraries compiled into the binary, so they're not loading off disk. And then we have additional packages, which is like the control functionality, which allows you to enable and disable certain security aspects of RLH. Password QC for password quality control, and the ability to enable YesCrypt to encrypt passwords for password hash.
Okay, so obviously it's way more than turn on SE Linux and okay, we're hardened. When I first ran across your guys' announcement, it was totally new to me. Not the concept of hardening, we all live and die by that. But as I went to do research on it in the way that you were implementing it, this is not some set of, okay, if you've got Linux, you got to harden this and you got to harden that module and this module. This is stuff you looked at and said, here's areas where we can improve security. That's basically correct?
Yeah, this is new code, and Solar has basically been the technical architect around this. So I mean, if you look at the different components, you've got LKRG, which is basically a kernel rootkit detector. And so that's a module that you load into the kernel. And what it will do is, imagine that you're being attacked, right? So what do you try and do? You've got into the kernel, you're going to try and, or you want to modify a process, you want to modify some long-running daemon that's not running as root, you want to make it run as root, or you want to upgrade your process capabilities. If you can write into the kernel memory, you can overwrite your credentials.
Sure.
Structure. You can say, rather than running as UID 1020, I'm going to run it as UID 0.
Okay.
So you override it with the 0. Great. Now you're root.
And for everyone who's watching, all the UIDs 0 through 1000 are owned by the core of the operating system. Okay.
So the thing that LKRG does is basically it looks at processes. It has a list of running processes, and it remembers the credentials that they should be if they have been changed their credentials correctly using the kernel APIs. So if something makes a system call and it finds, hang on a minute, the credentials are now 0 and they didn't used to be, it's going to terminate the process. So there are a lot of attacks that this thing will find and mitigate, because if you knew you were running on a system with this, theoretically you could code yourself around it. But most malware isn't written with that kind of awareness. It's written to infect, Debian, Rocky, RHEL, whatever, bog standard systems. So if you're running LKRG on it, you've got basically you have an extra layer of armor that's running that will catch many of the common rootkit modifications, many of the common attacks that would otherwise compromise your Linux kernel.
So is the response to kill the process or something a little more
Oh, and you get, obviously, you get messages. If the kernel itself, it notices the kernel itself has been corrupted, it'll panic the system.
Okay.
So
Cool. So it's an internal IPS. It's a software. It's a kernel IPS, an intrusion protection system.
You know what the horrible thing you could call it?
An IPS?
No, it's antivirus for Linux. I'm sorry.
So LKRG is configurable. The panic is one of the configurations, but also there's ability to do remote logging through LKRG. So you don't post-mortem, yeah, you can go see those messages on that box if it were to panic. But in live mode, it would be sending those messages back to the admin so they could see what's going on.
That's got to be some really fun testing.
Well, one of our kernel engineers, Sultan, actually went through and he basically did a bunch of locking fixes to make it much more robust. And those have gone upstream. The guy who wrote this module originally is an NVIDIA engineer whose last name I can't pronounce. I'm sorry. I'm trying to remember his.
Well, you traded because you just lost one of your guys to NVIDIA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Adam Zabrocki, I think. Yeah. Anyway, so it's his idea originally, and he merged the changes from Sultan upstream. So we've been improving this. The other thing, there's various other things that this RLCH has. Obviously, there's LPRG, the kernel protector. There's also a modified version of OpenSSH. And the thing that I love about the modified version of OpenSSH, do you remember that absolutely fatal attack that nearly got past open source?
Yes, huge news.
Yeah. It would have mitigated that.
Oh, nice.
That would not have affected, because what it does is it cuts down the list of libraries that the SSH daemon actually uses. And one of the mitigations, and this is purely by luck, but one of the mitigations, because Sol was paranoid, is that it actually used the library that was corrupted. It basically, rather than loading it directly into SSHD, it created a sub-process. And so it could only have compromised the sub-process, and therefore the code that was replaced would never have been executed.
Got it.
So
that's slick.
Yeah, I looked at that and I thought, oh my god, that would have because that nearly got through. Nearly got through.
Yeah, there was a societal panic on that one, at least in the industry.
As a maintainer of an open source project, terrified me, absolutely terrified me, because it's coming in via dependencies and you just don't know. And then there's another element which is hardened malloc, and that's so. Now, remember, all of these things cost. You don't get this for free. And what it costs is performance.
Of course.
So I think, do you remember the numbers on LKRG? I think it was something like 2%. Because basically every system call, it's having to do more work. So, you're going to lose some performance. The other thing that is in there that isn't turned on by default, but is available if you really want to harden up a box, is the standard malloc library. You know about malloc? You've heard of malloc?
I don't.
Okay, so that's the memory. That's the standard memory allocation.
Oh, okay, sure.
Right? And normally what happens is attacks come when you can overwrite memory that you're not supposed to. Right?
Makes sense.
And what hardened malloc does, and I know this because I put a bunch of flaws in code that actually did this, or rather allowed people to do this. I'm the author of many CVs. So what this thing does is when you're making large allocations, it does something very clever. So you're aware of the CPU has kernel page protections. So you can allocate a page of memory and you can set protections on it. You can say, I can read and write to this, but this next page I can only read from, I cannot write to, etc. So what it does is when you ask for a large amount of memory, it splits it up into pages and then it puts guard pages, one below, one above, and it sets those as completely unwritable. So if a standard exploit comes in and tries to overwrite memory, it hits the guard pages, gets a general protection fault, down the process goes.
Okay, so you've kind of created a sandbox.
Yes, it isolates them. Now again, this you pay for this with performance, and then for the small amount allocation, memory allocations, one that you'd fit many within a page. What it does is it basically creates a hash, and it puts what I call canary hashes on either side of the allocation, and then when you access that memory or when you free it or you do anything with it, it checks, are those canaries still there and untouched? The canary in the coal mine thing. So if the canary is dead, in other words, it doesn't match what it should be, then you know someone's overwritten memory, and again, kills the process.
Sure.
So, you know, this is a great way of improving the security, and it works. The great thing about this code is you can literally load it into 99.9% of the system code that's running.
Wow.
And it adds those protections completely transparently, other than performance cost. So
Well,
if you're willing to pay
if it's 2%, even if it's 5%,
yeah.
that seems a fairly small price to pay.
So I mean, imagine you wanted to put it on a Bastion host or a firewall host, or that would be the ideal place to put something like that.
That makes total sense. And so, yeah, because they're bastions, we're not doing real processing with them. We are just doing security and front end work.
Yep. And then there's the password. Do you want to talk about the password modifications, Jason? The password hashing?
Yeah, so standard password hashes are SHA-512, but we upgraded to YesCrypt hashes, right? And so that's a significant improvement. And it's shown that YesCrypt significantly increases the time it takes to crack that hash.
Okay. So, how big are the hashes?
How big are the hashes?
I don't remember.
Like 2K, better than that? Yeah.
No.
No, they're a hash, so they're pretty small. I can't remember the actual size of them.
Right.
But
well, 2K is fairly
that,
small anymore. I mean, we're not talking 56 byte caches anymore. Hashes.
But the other thing that this thing does is it allows you to plug in dictionary or other entropy processing code, such that when somebody puts a password in there, you can reject it if it's a weak password.
Oh wow. Okay.
So
that seems like it's something that should have been part of Linux 20 years ago, 15 years ago, anyways.
Well, there are add-ins to PAM that will do this, but this is basically a very, very sophisticated one.
Right.
So I think it can actually check entropy on the passwords, and it will reject it if it's.
Gotcha.
Now, Solar is the author of this, so I may be lying here.
Okay.
And you have to get him onto
I accept your lies.
Yeah,
All right,
these
I've got a
techniques are proven. He brought them over from his open wall product to the Hardened product. So they've been around for a long time, and he's shown that it does improve password security and quality control passwords.
That makes sense. All right, got another question from Patricia. Is CIQ serving international customers or just US? Does FIPS certification require US-based servers? I hear a very complicated answer to that. It sounds like a simple question.
No, we do serve. The FIPS standard is multinational, EU, Canada, Korea. So it's not custom crypto where it can't leave the US. And we do support international customers.
And yeah, and as you said, what you're developing is open source, so
Yeah.
it could easily be.
Yeah, no, you can deploy it. You can deploy it basically anywhere. It's open source. Now, of course, the actual code itself matches US government security standards.
Right.
So if your government is happy with following those, then yeah, it's not restricted to just US-based stuff.
Gotcha. All right, I need to respond to a couple of quickie things here. Tullowit, I saw both of your back channel things. And it visual ping, but it didn't audio ping. So where you heard that, I don't know. Okay. Well, we've got about 15 minutes left from showtime, and as we
there's one more thing in Rocky Linux Hardened,
Let's
and
go.
there's a modified glibc.
Okay.
again, which is fully open source. And this is actually mitigates attacks to processors via environment variables. So I don't know if you're familiar with this, but basically a lot of code can do really dumb things, like it can put passwords or credentials into environment variables. So you pick it up when the process
Sure, it's
runs.
kind of like a SQL injection, except
Yeah, yeah.
much more.
But the problem with those things is that whenever you invoke a subprocess, the environment is copied. So you basically bleed out the credentials, the secret stuff. And the modified version of glibc itself, the standard upstream code, will sanitize some environment variables, but the RLCH version, I think you can actually have a custom list of things, like anything with password or auth or whatever. You can essentially make sure that those are not passed down to subprocessors, so that actually hardens.
So that's interesting. How automated is that? Is there kind of a preset list of variables that it sanitizes, or do you have to go in as a dev or as an admin and select variables that you want protected?
Yeah, I think it's configurable.
Okay.
So this is an area that I've never messed with that code. So I know it does it. I don't know. I don't know out of the box how set up that is, or it might be something you need. The worst it will be is sending a config file saying, okay, I want to sanitize these things in my environment, and I don't want them passed between processes.
Well, this is a marvelous segue, because I was going to drag us into something that we talked about off air before the show started, and that was AI. And it sort of dawned on me that there's an interesting marriage here that says, well, we've got devs and we've got admins who are going to do these configurations and updates and things like that. And maybe AI becomes a tool to check those settings. And where are we at in AI as regards enterprise Linux and maybe AI in general?
We're all doomed.
Well, there you had it, folks. Thanks for checking in. We'll see you.
We'll be just typing in prompts, and the AI will do it. No, I mean it's scary how good it's gotten. It's scary how good it's gotten. I originally asked, well, this is about 5 years ago. I'm like, oh, can AI look for bugs in my code? And they're like, oh, that's a hard job. You've seen that XKCD where somebody says, oh, I want to find. There's a picture of a dog. I want to find out where in the world it is. And they say, oh, yeah, give me 2 weeks and I'll do a GPS lookup. And then someone says, and I want to know what type of dog it is. And they say, give me 5 years and a research budget. It's now at the point where the 5 years of the research budget is actually there.
Yeah.
And so it's I think the first 0 day has been found via AI.
Really?
So, yeah, the first 0 day flaw in code.
Wow.
And you know what that means? That means all major governments are using AI to pour through every single piece of open source.
Yeah, of course.
Looking for 0 days right now.
Every day, all the time.
Yeah, and they ain't telling anybody. So yeah, it's
really restricted language LLM, and it's only code that is malicious.
It's scary how good it is. Jason, you've been doing vibe coding, right? You've been.
Oh man, yeah. It's I have a funny situation though. I was just producing tons of code, and at one point or another, there was some code that went missing. And I even asked it. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of new to it, so I said, "Where did this code go?" And it said, "I don't see any code like that." I said, "I know you. I don't see any code. You don't see code. It used to be there." And and I remembered what file it was in, so I hit Control Z, and there was the code.
Wow.
And I was like, "This is the code I was talking about." It was like, "Oh yeah, it's right there." I'm like, "Yeah, it's right there." No, it's an amazing tool. Generally, I don't know anything on databases, and I was generating some database triggers, and just from being a programmer for so long, I think I know what something would look like, when it's complete, but I don't know how to code any of that. So I told it, hey, I want some triggers that are on this table, and I want you to generate JSON objects of the new and old, and it did it all.
Wow.
It took multiple iterations because it wanted like everything in each JSON object. And I was like, no, I only want things that have changed. So it regenerated multiple iterations, but in the span of 15 minutes, I was like, that's a trigger. Wow, yeah. So it is a great tool.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that brings in. Go ahead, Alison.
No, I was trying to write some test code. We had a customer issue. They wanted to test the speed of something, and it was a complex multi-threaded program they were running. So I'm like, oh, okay, let me write some test code that reproduces this. And then I thought, wait a minute, why don't I ask AI rather than spending 2 days trying to debug on one of this code? And I said, create me a multi-threaded program that will do this, and test this entropy, and bang,
Wow.
there it was.
And good code, it worked.
A good code, it worked. I mean, I know multi-threaded code. I've had to write enough of it, and it was perfect. It's just like, oh, okay, I'm reaping the threads at the end now, but pthread join. Oh, you need a mutex around here. Yeah, you do. Yeah. They used to pay me to think about that.
Okay, so that sends me down 2 roads. I'm going to mention them both and then attack either if you like.
Okay.
There is probably, I guess we'll do the first. The breadth that AI is insinuating itself into, the niches and the whole grand thing. In my world, we don't see code being used to optimize production machines, but I know it's out there. AI is out there doing it. I see guys having it write Python scripts and make pretty pictures of rainbows over mountains and things like that. So this is kind of eye-opening to see when it can do something as sophisticated as the things that you guys are doing. Wow. And then when we start thinking about the industries and the niches where these kinds of specialty tasks can be performed, and that leads me to the other thought, and then you can attack either or both. Surely people are out there using AI to create malware. So not only are we detecting 0 day, we're making 0 day.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of its usefulness, I mean, CIQ is preparing a product, Rocky Linux for AI, which is basically a variant with a bunch of AI libraries optimized so that if you want to do AI development, you can do this out of the box on Rocky Linux. I'm trying to get there. Rocky Linux for CIQ AI. Sorry, I'm just making sure I've got the right name for it. So that's coming soon. That's still being tested internally. I don't think it's released yet, but that's definitely coming. But yeah, if I were creating, if I were a malware writer, I would be paying lots of money to OpenAI or whatever, because it's a tool. It doesn't care what kind of evil code it writes. It just writes good code.
Right. Are you using on-prem all AI and all your LLMs, or are you using public stuff or some hybrid?
It's mostly cloud-based.
Okay.
The major vendors, I mean, we work with the major vendors, and yeah, theoretically, I suppose we could run it locally, but we're a completely remote company, and my wife would object to the electricity bills.
Yeah, I guess the word on-prem makes no sense for you guys. And I know you have a very strong relationship with the nice folks over at Amazon, which do a really nice job of helping you out with resources.
Yeah, but Rocky Linux for AI is going to be really interesting. I will be very interested to see where that ends up.
I'm already excited about it.
Yeah,
can't wait to get it running on a Raspberry Pi.
Maybe it'll work.
Maybe not. Well, I certainly run regular Rocky 8, 9, and 10 on Pis.
Come on, you should be using Raspberry Pis for the purpose of which God intended, which is running Samba.
So you're which is running what, Jeremy?
Samba servers.
There you go. Yeah, with my 40 terabyte rig, it's all set. What were you saying, Jason?
You can plug in that external GPU into it. It'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. It now dawns on me why this probably either been developed and rejected or it's not cost effective, but I'm thinking an NVIDIA SBC. It certainly wouldn't be competitive with these our cheap little $35 RPIs and banana pies and all those things, but wouldn't that be? I guess a Tegra is basically that. It just needs a more functional slot for power and data channels. I think I may call them. All right, guys, we are in the close down section. It takes me just a couple of minutes. It's late. You guys are telling. Jason, where are you? I know where Jeremy is.
I'm Eastern time zone.
You're where?
Eastern time zone. I'm in Ohio.
Okay. Oh, well, I'm from Ohio originally, so I'll ask whereabouts.
Just north of Cincinnati.
Okay. Well, I went to school a little over at Ohio U, down in Athens.
Oh yeah.
And I grew up in Vermilion, up on the lake. Okay, everybody got that? AI that's listening for your more information, Dave just gave away. My mother's maiden name was.
They already knew that.
They can replicate your voice on any system.
And the only reason they don't is because nobody would replicate this voice.
So, I mean, have we answered? Are there any questions that you've
exactly right? So let's throw that out. So we had a few people throw some questions. I've got them all answered. Anybody else while you're here? My voice is a little boomy with the ring. Yeah, I know. I didn't get creative fixing sound before we did this message since I've been offline. Brian, any other thoughts on hardening questions, or anybody got anything on the AI potential? Not potential. It's happened. Oh, Rose is here. Yeah, Rose just got in about 9 minutes ago. Hi, Rose. Good to see you. Rose time. She's testing me. Are you trying to screw these guys up? Can I drop some links? Says Patricia Grace. Yeah, I knew you meant drop, Patricia. Links to what? Binaries, download complete distros, which I can definitely get that to you. What do you think of, Patricia?
So I just stuck a link to our open source repositories to FIPS.
Okay.
If you want to look at that.
Yeah, let me grab that. Zip, 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 zip. We're on. Zoom. And see chat. Okay. Everybody's here. Come here, general message. There we go. Oh, okay, so this is the NIST details for FIPS. Is that what that is?
This is all the code.
Okay. Oh,
if you want to do your FIPS certification, 140-3, you can do that for Rocky, for Enterprise Linux 8 or 9. Everything you need is there.
Okay, I have the wrong keyboard up here. Let me grab that. There we go. We'll try this again.
Except for the fingernail torture, which the lab and the government will provide.
Fair enough. Okay, click that.
Yeah, it's not an easy process. I mean, the code is there. That's the starting point. Going through the process, answering the questions. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Okay, good. All right. Well, let me fill everybody in here, and Rose and you guys, just as an FYI, we don't get a tremendous amount of viewers when we do the show live. Over the course of a year, we get about 15,000 unique viewers. So your words will be cast among the masses. I doubt it will improve your customer size database, but it's information that's useful for everybody, and I put up a decent descriptor that will help people find this stuff. I hope you'll join us again sometime this year. We want to make this a fairly frequent event. We're real supporters of Rocky. Rocky is a real supporter of us. When you first launch, within the first 2 months.
But remember, we're not Rocky.
I know that.
We love Rocky.
I appreciate that. I tend to lump them together as an organization.
I know. I really don't want to take.
Right.
I really
CIQ is the support agency, and Rocky is the community of developers.
Rocky's community. That's where we wouldn't have anything without them.
Of course not.
Anything without.
And vice versa, right? You can just put code out there, but without support, and certainly for your enterprise base, they need that support, and they can afford that support.
I don't know. The CentOS guys did pretty well without it.
All right. Okay, you mentioned it, so I'm doing it. This was on a post made by either CIQ or Rocky today. It was by Greg, or Greg was quoted that while official support for CentOS 7 is gone and dead, they're supporting it. You guys are supporting it, Rocky/CIQ. So there's files, patches, and fixes going out. So we know everybody's making a huge push to get your CentOS systems changed over to something current, modern. Hopefully it's Rocky 9, Rocky 10. But even if it's not, I know you guys are fully happy for people to move to SUSE or maybe Alma or Fedora or the R word. But nobody's doing anything to help the people who aren't ready to make that commitment and move, except you guys. So kudos to you for that.
Well, that's CIQ Bridge. I just
Yeah, well, CIQ
looked it up on our website. Sorry.
I actually knew that term, but I was going to get it.
Because, like I say, it's not my department.
Okay. Well, Rose is passing along her thanks to you guys. I pass along my thanks to you guys. For everybody else, you know my drill here. Just a quick reminder. Next show is going to be on Friday again, and we're going to get all caught up on the last couple of months. And I'm going to, you guys stick around for just a second while I get ready to do this shutdown thing. I have to go.
It's been great talking with you. It's been a lot of fun.
Likewise. There's nobody that I haven't talked to over there that I haven't said, wow, that's great. Oh, okay, there it is. All right. So, as ever and always, I wish you all a great rest of the week, good weekend, good week next week. Take care of each other. Take serious steps to stay healthy. Should listen to my own advice, huh? But I'm finally getting there. If at all possible, call or visit your parents. And never forget, technology is great, but the greatest resources we have, you guys all know this, are you and I. With that, I bid you good night. I will see you on ADRAMADA next Friday and the other platforms that I'm on. Until then, remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. Later, guys. Whoops. I hit the wrong button. Now I have to do another wave.